Hey guys, as y'all have probably seen on Inven or someone posted somewhere else, maybe it's Reddit, the other day somebody posted a fake balance patch update on Inven. And a couple people took this seriously. A couple people saw it and thought it wasn't real, and it wasn't. It was a fake. It was a fake update. And we looked at that update on stream just to kind of take a look at it to see what our future could be, right? What kind of suggestions that the players had and see if they really made sense. And a lot of them are actually very, very good updates. And a lot of people were pretty happy about seeing those and were wishing that Smilegate would actually implement some of those updates. So this led us down the rabbit hole of having a whole discussion around balance and what Smilegate should do, what they shouldn't do, what balance looks like in MMOs, what balance shouldn't look like in MMOs. And I think there was some really interesting discussion that came out of this session. And I wanted to share that to you guys who maybe weren't able to catch that over on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/vswagshiro. I stream every single night at 10 p.m. PST. But yeah, so I want to share that with you guys right now and see if you had any thoughts about our discussion and my opinions on how classes should be balanced and why, for example, Smilegate might not be moving as quickly as we'd like them or making certain changes. Seems to be some mild StarCraft 2 concerns, though, that the community does a better job of balance patch than the devs. Well, here's the thing. And I don't know if this is really the case or not with balancing games because personally, I've never worked at an MMO company. Like, I think probably Saint might be able to give a better answer to this because he has worked in games in the past. But there are a lot of things that you need to consider when balancing characters. It's not just about making the characters like in a way that the players want, right? There's a couple pieces to it. It's like maybe the players want a certain thing, but is that good for the game? For example, like this, right? This one right here. Like I said, I think this would actually be OP. If they got damage to enemies plus crit rate by 15% on EO, I think that would actually be just too powerful. But also, there's other things to consider in that I think it might be at many times intentional that they don't buff every single class at the same time. They might have had the same ideas for some of these classes. Like, I think as imagine I'm like a Smilegate employee. I'm like, I know that Power Strike stiffness would be really nice with the Destroyer. But at the same time, it's kind of like you don't want to give everything to the players at once because there's nothing to look forward to in the future. Like, and also, there's never going to be a situation where every player is going to be happy with the state of balance in the game. Players are always going to be complaining about stuff, right? Regardless, even if this entire patch came through and the players were happy about this, right? Players will just find some more stuff to complain about. They will just find more things to complain about. So, in many ways, it's hard. I don't want to be like, I don't want to seem like I'm like a shill for Smilegate or whatever. I just think that, and I just think about things very realistically. I think that in games in general, even like you never want to make so many changes at once because one, like you're losing the opportunity to make these changes in the future and kind of like trickling in. Like, how like when you give a dog a reward, you don't give them the entire box at once. You give them like a little by little, right? It's kind of the same thing with players and games. You don't want to give them the entire package at once. You want to give them little bit by little bit, drip feed them a little bit. Yeah. That's really around what's fun in Lost Ark should either be comfort or broken damage. And at the same, like, here's the thing, too, right? You make the game a lot more comfortable for people to play, but at the same time, I don't think there's another side of the coin to this, right? You can make the game a lot more comfortable for players to play, but at the same time, that in turn reduces the difficulty of a class as well, right? Part of the difficulty of playing certain classes is being able to time your skills well, is being able to use your skills at the right place, the right time, in the right, all that stuff, right? Like, let's just even take Striker, for example. Where's Striker? This tripod here, right? Stiffness immunity is added. It would make my life so much better by them adding this. But at the same time, it would reduce the difficulty of this class as well, which you have to take into account. If we, for example, went with like Soulfist, right? If we went for a Soulfist and literally gave all the stiffness immunity to them, you're literally making like half their skills easier to use. And in that sense, making the class a lot easier to play, which is not something that everybody wants. Some people like when classes are hard to play and likes being that person that who's able to push these classes to the limit despite having the class being hard to play. Which is why, even though they're quote unquote quality of life balances, like they don't just change like the quality of life for a player in the sense like it doesn't change anything else. And just is an improvement. Some players actually like that added difficulty, and for if you do that, some people will be unhappy. I think like there's definitely all these considerations to put into play, and I'm not necessarily saying it's a bad thing to add this quality of life, but I'm just saying that it's not as straightforward and black and white as like, oh, improving like the comfortability of the game is always gonna be better, because it's not always gonna be better. Some people do have the shit that's like easier. Imagine every single skill in the game had knock-up immunity, like had tenacity where you wouldn't get knocked up by skill, like kind of like Bard Rhapsody, right? It would be kind of brain dead to play a lot of classes. And there's a reason why not like I don't have a Slayer, for example. I don't have a Predator Slayer because I think it's just too straightforward of class to play. And I think that's something to consider as well when thinking about balance matches. Less difficulty is more fun for casuals, yeah, but I think Lost Ark has a lot of hardcore players too. You can't. It's hard to cater for both, right? So it's like you kind of have to find a happy balance. So you got to know in PvPs and Lost Ark is a huge headache. Yo, what's up, Prexus? Oh my god, lolly lovers, bro. Everyone gets to become a gun lancer. Yeah, exactly. We don't want that to be in the game. Like we can't just give every class like the quote unquote best quality of life changes like possible. It's you still have to like balance. You have to think about like is this too easy for the player now? Is this too simple for the player now? And that's the thing that you need to think about. Which is also why like things like this like casting time change to 3 to 2 seconds would be nice, but is that something that we want? Like part of the appeal of hitting of Soulfist is that it's kind of like hard to hit the spirit bombs, so that when you do hit it, it just feels so good. If there was no like risk to it, I think that certain people probably wouldn't play the class. Like honestly, the one of the main reasons why I still have Soulfist in my rotation is because it's a fun class to play for content. If they just made this shit instant, it would be a lot less fun, in my opinion. I wish each class had a brain dead subclass that was super high floor, low ceiling, and casual friendly to the inverse. I mean, I think that would be a good thing. It's hard to say again. It's all really hard to say, especially when it comes to balance, right? Imagine if, like for example, I play both EO and Deathblow. If EO was, or sorry, ESO and Deathblow. If ESO was just brain dead easy, I don't think I'd play it. I wouldn't want to play it. And that's limiting the amount of flexibility and play styles that you're giving to a player in a certain sense. But I think there's two sides of this coin, right? There's two sides of this coin for sure. Some people would agree with me. Some people probably wouldn't disagree with me. And I think both sides are valid. Yeah, most of the hard classes are martial artists and assassins, plus arcana, warrior, brain dead. I think in most cases, like a lot of warriors are pretty straightforward, and that's kind of it's like a design of the class itself and the archetype. And same with assassins, right? For the most part, most games assassins are the higher skill cap classes. I think that's just like a general archetype in games in general and RPGs in general. You have to think about it, but you're totally right. You have to think about what to do in combat. And for Slayer, it feels right to not have your skills interrupted. One of the most frustrating things for me is getting my energy combustion interrupted and it goes on CD. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. We talked about balance and shit for quite a while, which I think is great.